Coming up in today's video, we take a step away from SS camo schemes and look at one of the most popular schemes of the Second World War, Splinter. This scheme is one that is incredibly tricky to get right, especially at 172, but hopefully this tutorial will help with that. Don't forget to comment and subscribe if you find this video useful. Okay, so you guys have been asking for it and it's finally arrived. I'm doing my take on Splinter Camo. So to start off with, I'm using Splinter Mustard Base, just painting the jump smock in that entire color. I also used a dark brown to prime the model. So it's up to you, it doesn't have to be a specific brand, just whatever dark brown you want to use. And then I'm using the Splinter Muster uniforms set from AK Interactive. It's an awesome set. It comes with different colors for the Splinter. So you've got a sandier color and you've got a darker green color. It's up to you what you want to do. I just prefer this grayer color opposed to the others for what I'm trying to achieve, sort of like a Normandy German para look. Then I'm going over the model as I do with all of mine in unbar wash. You can sort of water it down a little bit, so sometimes you might find it's a bit too harsh for what you're trying to achieve, and that's okay. Just a little bit of water added to it, so you can put it in a palette with a dab of water, and you can really water that wash down, and it will sort of dilute it a little bit so it's not as sharp. Because you can see in this video now, it's quite dark, and sometimes a bit too dark isn't what you want. So for me, in hindsight, I probably would have gone a touch lighter, so I've added a dab of water. I went straight from the wash here, but the end results speak for themselves, but a little bit lighter probably wouldn't have gone amiss either. Then, as I normally do, I'm going back over what I've just put a wash on. So I've let the wash dry. I'm going back over Splinter Mustard Base. Let the wash dry for 30 minutes, an hour, not too much time. It doesn't take too long, especially in acrylic wash. It dries really quickly. But once that's done, I'm just going around making sure I'm capturing all the details. The reason I do this is because I want the original color to be darker, so then we can go back over and add another layer of the same color, but it's going to look brighter. I like this color as my main color for the base coat of the Splinter Camo. So that's why I try and do it. I always like to darken my initial colors and then put another layer over the top of them. It works really well. You've just got to practice, just keep practicing it, and then you'll start building up those layers and eventually you'll come to a really bright color. And you can be quite messy here, so don't be afraid if you look at it and go, oh, I'm not 100% happy with it. We're putting camo over it, so it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, all right? So just go with it. Now the next is a Splinter Base White Grey 75-25 mix. So I'm using Splinter Base by AK and White Grey from Vallejo. It's up to you what you want to do. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to give the rain mark effect. Now you might be thinking, why are you using a lighter color for this? I'm scratching in, if that makes any sense at all. I'm sort of scratching in, so I'm making sure the paint is pretty much off the brush, but there's a little bit left on it, and I'm just scratching in random vertical lines on the smock. So I'm creating lighter colors that are going to be straight, and that is going to give you the rain marks. All right, you might be thinking this is ludicrous, but trust me, it works. If you go to do dark rain marks on this model, they're going to blow out. You're not going to see them because the camo is already going to look quite dark, unless you use obviously a lighter color. So for this, I'm using a brighter base color to simulate those rain marks. So the darker part of the base color that's going to come through is going to look like those straight vertical lines. It's a little trick. I think it actually works really nicely, and it tricks the eye into thinking that there's rain marks on there. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and paint that brown camo line. So we're using Waffen Red Brown. So the key with Splinter is to ensure that you're painting in straight lines. Very sharp, very straight. These aren't curved lines. And the other thing to note is as well, stuff like pockets and sleeves, etc. The camo lines don't overlap. All right, they're a completely different pattern compared to the torso. So the torso doesn't meet the arm and then go over the arm. The arm's got its own, the torso's got its own, its pockets has got its own. So try and simulate that if you can as well. Or at least that's what I've seen in some of the reference photos that I've used. I may be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments, but I think that's pretty common with most of the jackets that are camoed during the Second World War. Now we want to add green boxes, if you will, but they're not boxes in terms of, I'm not putting a square down or a rectangle. They're obviously different shapes, but make sure that they're sharp. So again, just doing the exact same thing as what we did with the brown. We're using nice sharp boxes and trying to make out little bits here and there. I'm not putting them off the brown, so I'm making sure that it connects to the brown in some way or another. I've not just got a random green box away from everything on the base coat. Once you look at reference pictures, it makes life very easy. I've tried to add a few here so you can sort of see what I'm trying to say, but you will get it. Just have a look on Google. Google is your friend, and it will really help you. Even the repo ones, I mean, for this scale, it doesn't matter if it's reproduction Splinter or if it's the real thing. Now it's time to throw a glaze on the model. You don't have to do this. This might be a bit overkill, but I put a green glaze on this one. And the reason I use a green glaze is because I feel like this green glaze sort of made it pop just a little bit more. You could also use a brown glaze, which would just darken it a touch. It's personal preference. It really is up to you. So whatever you decide is going to be best for your model. Try one model with green and one model with brown. The key is not to smother it on, okay? It's just a glaze, so just put a little bit on and that will do the trick nicely. So now we're going Splinter base white grey 50-50 and we're adding more of those vertical lines. So this is the key to getting those rain marks. I know I keep saying it, so I'm using a nice fine brush here. I may have put a bit too much paint on the brush. I'll try and sort of scratch it away if I can whilst the paint's still a little bit wet. But yeah, you'll see hopefully in the pictures or at the end video, or if I show it at some point, what I'm actually trying to achieve here. And once you do it yourself, it will work really well. It's really hard to explain, but once you see it, your eyes think that there is rain marks there, when obviously we don't have any actual dark rain marks, and we're definitely not putting any on the camo itself, because like I said, it will just blow out and it just won't look right. Now we just want to go over some of the mistakes that we've made. So I'm using my initial prime color, if you will, so that's a German camo black brown from Vallejo. I'm also adding the band around the helmet cover. If you look on Google on the reference photos, you'll see that the helmet cover had a band over it, and it had a band on the top in like a sort of like a plus symbol. So we want to do that as well. Try not to miss that, because with the Fallschirmjager, that was a very prominent part of their kit, especially if I'm trying to replicate them in Normandy, and it definitely sticks out a lot, so it makes the model look pretty cool once you've got that effect. So once that's dry, I'm going to go over that band with Splinter base, and I'm not going to put the whole band in that one color. I'm going to break them up, so I'm going to add like 8 sort of rectangles in that brown. So take your time here. You're going to make a few mistakes, that's okay. We can go back over with that German camo dark brown, but I'm just going to add little bands here and there just to break it up, so you look at it and go, okay, that's a band that goes around his helmet cover. If I just put in one single sort of whitish line, it's not going to look as good as if we sort of try and break it down. And then I'm also going to be putting that Splinter base on the plus on top of his helmet cover as well. Now I'm giving it like a pin wash, that Splinter base with umbar wash again. As you can tell, was my go-to. Now I believe for this stage I actually watered it down, so I don't want it to be super harsh, but I also want it to be dark enough that when I put that Splinter base down again, it's going to stand out. The worst thing you want to do is put too much water in your wash, and then your wash just becomes very diluted and it's more water than brown. And here I've also gone over the bread bag. I'm not actually going to show you how I paint the rest of the model, it's just the uniform focused for today. So as I said, we're going back over Splinter base. So we're going over that plus on his helmet. I'd love to know the actual correct terminology here, guys. You're probably thinking this guy is useless. Please tell me if what the correct terminology is for this. But I'm putting this on the plus. I'm also going around the bands, but I'm not smothering it on. I'm just adding a little line here and a little line there and a few little dots on the actual band. That's going to break it up a little bit. Looks like it's got a bit more detail than perhaps it has. It's very good at tricking the eye, and that's what you want to do. You want to trick the eye into thinking there's more detail than there actually is, especially from a distance. Now, to paint the trousers, we're using Field Grey Shadows Green. It's from the German Field Grey set from AK Interactive, and I'm just putting that around his trousers. Again, being quite generous with it because we can fix up any mistakes, but trying to avoid the jacket that we've just painted. Then I'm going over the trousers with Field Grey Base 1. So this is where the layering comes into it. So I'm leaving that initial base color in the dark areas in the creases, and now I'm picking out where the crease lines sort of stick out and any details like that. Then I'm going to a Field Grey Base 75 to Field Grey Light Green 25% ratio, and I'm just keep building up to a brighter color here. So I'm just picking out the details subtly, and I'm just picking out bits and pieces here, and eventually just going to build up to that very final highlight. And I've just said it, this is the final highlight. So this is Field Grey Base 1 with Field Grey Light Green, 50-50 ratio. You could go straight to Field Grey Light Green after this if you really wanted to be crazy, but I really don't think it was necessary for this model. So it's up to you. If that's what you want to do, by all means, do it. It will look just as good, but yeah. And then finally for the trousers, I'm using a brown glaze this time. So not green, I'm using brown. Again, you could probably use a green glaze on this too, but it's really up to you. I'm going to use a brown glaze for this one. They really work. If you haven't got any glazes, I would highly recommend getting some. And there we go. So I'm trying to show you just those rain marks. It's hard to see in this light, but honestly, take my word for it, you will definitely see them if you follow the technique that I use. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and give us a comment below. Just let us know what you thought of it. Will you be using this technique in the future? I'm probably going to be taking a little bit of a break from 172 camo tutorials, probably just for the next few weeks. I've got a few other things that are lined up that need to be done. But what would you want to see next? I know that there's been some calls for some Cold War camos and some other German camo. I can obviously look at other allied stuff, but I've been really enjoying this series, so it's not going anywhere. I just need to get a couple of other tutorials out, and then I'll return to this camo tutorials series that I'm doing. But yeah, thanks again for all your support, and I will catch you guys at the next one. Cheers, bye.